In the grandiose mansion, a flurry of activity enveloped the opulent space. The diligent house owner, Gregory, alongside the ever-attentive nanny, Melissa, labored meticulously to transform the room into a festive wonderland. If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. They adorned the space with a cascade of vibrant, inflatable balloons and set the table with meticulous care, all in preparation for a momentous occasion. The day was brimming with significance. It was the birthday of Gregory's cherished and beloved son, Joe. The little boy, now 6 years old, was at the center of this heartfelt celebration. Yet the young birthday boy seemed to drift through the day with a heavy heart. Seated immobile in his wheelchair, his gaze was distant and vacant, betraying no spark of excitement or joy for the festivities unfolding around him. His father's eyes, filled with a profound sadness, frequently darted towards him as he made valiant attempts to lift Joe's spirits. "Joe, my dear son." Gregory's voice quivered with a mix of hope and anguish. "Look at how exquisitely we've decorated this room for you. Grandma and Grandpa are on their way, and soon Uncle Mike and Aunt Brenda will arrive with a treasure trove of gifts just for you. Tell me, what is it that you desire most in this world? I am willing to move mountains and grant any wish you have, just to see a smile light up your face." For a fleeting moment, a glimmer of hope flickered in Joe's eyes, transforming his somber expression. With a soft, trembling voice, he replied, "More than anything, I want to see Mom again. I miss her so much. I also wish I could have friends and walk by myself. I don't need anything else." The poignant simplicity of his words struck Gregory like a blow to the heart. Overwhelmed by emotion, he enveloped Joe in a warm embrace and whispered through his tears, "My precious son, you know that your mother is watching over us from heaven. Her love surrounds us, and she is deeply pained to see you in sorrow. I promise you, my dear, that you will walk again. We will reclaim the joy of our days together playing ball in the yard, just as we used to. I will do everything in my power to ensure that you have friends to play with, just as you've always wanted." Joe sighed deeply, his silence a testament to the weight of his unspoken desires. He turned his gaze towards the window, his eyes once more clouded with sadness. Gregory's heart ached with an intensity that he could scarcely bear. The harsh reality of their lives had been irrevocably altered a year ago, following a tragic accident that marked the beginning of a profound and unending grief. Joe's recovery had been slow and incomplete, leaving Gregory feeling lost and helpless in his attempts to mend the shattered pieces of their lives. His motivation wavered, casting a shadow of uncertainty over their future. In the days before the accident, everything had been so different. Gregory had grown up surrounded by the privileges afforded by his family's wealth and their successful business endeavors. His upbringing was steeped in high expectations and relentless pursuit of achievement. From a young age, he was molded into a diligent student at a prestigious school focused on mathematics, and his extracurricular activities were carefully curated to foster excellence. He was accustomed to the luxuries of pocket money, the latest phone models, and stylish attire. Yet his father's stern demeanor ensured that he never became complacent or unruly. He instilled in Gregory a sense of responsibility from the very beginning. As Gregory entered university and began to explore romantic interests, it was his mother who took on the role of gatekeeper. Her standards for his potential partners were exacting, and she did not hesitate to scrutinize and pass judgment on the young women he brought into his life. Yet fate took an unexpected turn when the woman Gregory fell deeply in love with and wished to marry turned out to be highly favored by his parents. Marilyn hailed from a distinguished family of professors. She exuded grace, humility, and impeccable manners, qualities that won his mother's approval. Gregory and Marilyn's love was a gentle, profound, and authentic connection, leading them to marry with genuine affection. As their love blossomed, they eagerly anticipated the arrival of their first child. Marilyn's pregnancy was a source of immense joy for the entire family. The experience was seamless and uneventful. She was spared from the common ailments of pregnancy, such as nausea or fatigue, and the birth proceeded smoothly without any complications. Their son, Joe, grew up to be a robust and healthy boy, his early milestones of walking and general vitality continually delighting his parents. Gregory assumed control of the family business, a small but highly successful confectionery factory. Their cakes, crafted from the finest natural ingredients and a secret recipe, were highly sought after, resulting in long lines of eager customers. Marilyn was deeply involved in the business, regularly attending meetings with culinary experts and reveling in the creative process of crafting new confections. Even during her maternity leave, she remained actively engaged in the family enterprise. The birth of Joe did not disrupt her work. He was a calm baby, eating well, sleeping soundly, and causing little trouble. Marilyn often brought Joe along to the factory, where he took great pleasure in observing the creation of cakes and pastries, and of course, sampling the delicious treats. On that fateful day, she needed to visit the factory for just an hour to oversee an important order, a grand 3-tiered wedding cake that demanded precision. Marilyn was a skilled driver, and Gregory had never worried about her safety. She carefully secured Joe in his car seat and set off, adhering strictly to traffic regulations, a precaution that would later prove crucial. Tragically, as Marilyn navigated a turn, the car unexpectedly skidded on the slick, rain-slicked road. Despite her careful driving, the vehicle crashed into a pole. The airbags failed to deploy, and Marilyn's head struck the windshield with a devastating impact. The front of the car was obliterated, and despite the swift arrival of emergency services, Marilyn succumbed to her injuries before they could assist. Miraculously, Joe was unharmed, shielded by his car seat. However, he witnessed his mother's death, an ordeal that inflicted profound emotional trauma. In the aftermath of the catastrophe, Joe withdrew into himself. He became silent, plagued by night terrors, and tragically, he lost the ability to stand. Gregory was left in a state of utter devastation, grappling with the enormity of his loss and the profound disruption to their lives. At Marilyn's funeral, the weight of longing and despair, compounded by the sight of his son's suffering, left Gregory questioning the cruel twists of fate that had dismantled his once happy family. Gregory was consumed by a deep, unshakable sorrow. The happiness he once shared with Marilyn seemed like a distant dream, overshadowed by an overwhelming sense of injustice. He couldn't understand why fate had taken away someone as good and kind as Marilyn, while others who did nothing but harm seemed to thrive. It was a cruel twist of fate that gnawed at him incessantly. The thought of lying down on his bed, closing his eyes, and slipping into an eternal sleep seemed tempting. In a world where his beloved Marilyn no longer existed, the idea of waking up to face another day without her was almost unbearable. Yet the pressing reality of his son's condition held him captive. Joe's desperate need for his father's support was a constant reminder of his responsibilities. Despite the profound grief threatening to overwhelm him, Gregory fought valiantly for Joe's well-being. Over the past 6 months, he had immersed himself in a relentless search for answers, taking Joe to numerous clinics and consulting with the country's most esteemed doctors. The initial assumption that Joe's physical challenges were due to a spinal injury was quickly dispelled. Every medical professional affirmed that, physically, Joe was perfectly healthy. The true affliction was deeply psychological. The trauma Joe had endured had manifested in severe emotional and mental distress, preventing him from standing or recovering his sense of normalcy. The uncertainty surrounding Joe's future was a heavy burden Gregory carried, and it gnawed at him day and night. Joe, meanwhile, was spiraling into a state of profound sadness. His interactions with other children dwindled, and he eventually stopped attending daycare altogether. He spent most of his time at home with the nanny, occasionally venturing out for brief walks. Gregory's relentless pursuit of a cure yielded some progress over the year. Joe began to speak again, his nightly screams subsided, and he no longer dreaded his father's car. However, the boy remained unable to stand on his own, and despite Gregory's exhaustive efforts to seek help from various specialists, ranging from Chinese healers and osteopaths to folk practitioners, nothing seemed to alleviate Joe's suffering. The consensus remained the same: Joe's issues were psychological, a reaction to the traumatic accident, and no one could predict when or if he would fully recover. Amidst this turmoil, little Joe clung to the only tangible connection he had left to his mother, a plush teddy bear she had given him. He would hold the bear tightly, speaking to it as if it were Marilyn herself. The boy would hug the stuffed toy, tears streaming down his face, as he desperately longed for the comfort and love his mother had once provided. Memories of her tender care haunted him: how she would soothe him to sleep with gentle kisses and loving whispers, how they would spend leisurely weekends snuggled together, watching cartoons and savoring vanilla ice cream with raspberry sauce. On this day, Joe's birthday, the house lacked any semblance of festive cheer. The atmosphere was heavy with sadness, as the boy remained enveloped in a constant state of melancholy. Gregory's heart ached with concern as he observed the drastic change in his son's demeanor. Joe, who once shared a vibrant bond with his father, had transformed into a shadow of his former self after the tragedy. Despite the deep affection Joe still held for him, the accident had fundamentally altered his spirit. One gloomy afternoon, Gregory ventured out to the market, braving a torrential downpour and fierce gusts of wind that threatened to topple him. He was on a mission to procure additional beverages and essentials for the day's festivities. Afterward, he planned to pick up his parents and bring them home to celebrate their grandson's birthday. As he left the store, his gaze fell upon a distressing sight: a young woman and her child huddled together on the porch. The woman, no more than 30, was dressed in inadequate clothing for the brutal weather. Her thin jacket and scarf offered little protection against the relentless rain and biting cold. Her daughter, similarly underdressed, wore an old jacket, a flimsy hat, and short boots. The child clung to her mother, visibly shivering and trembling from the icy wind. Gregory's heart swelled with compassion for their plight. Unable to ignore their suffering, Gregory reached into his wallet and withdrew a substantial bill. Approaching them, he said with genuine concern, "I can see you and your child are freezing. Please take this money and get yourself something warm to eat and find a place to warm up. It's a terrible storm out there. And buses are running infrequently due to the severe weather. Many routes have been canceled, and the utility services are struggling to manage the aftermath of this hurricane." The woman's eyes glistened with gratitude as she accepted the money, her daughter still shivering beside her. "Thank you so much," she said warmly. "It's incredibly kind of you. We're not homeless, though. My name is Cynthia, and this is my daughter, Kelly. We live outside the city, and we missed our bus due to the storm. We were trying to stay warm in the store until the security guard asked us to leave. I can see the bus stop from here. And as soon as the bus arrives, we'll head home." As Gregory was about to bid them farewell, a thought struck him. "What if I invite them to my son's birthday party?" he mused. It might be beneficial for Joe to interact with another child, and it could provide a sense of warmth and comfort for Cynthia and Kelly. We have plenty of food, and it would be a chance for them to escape the cold. With a newfound sense of hope, Gregory extended an invitation to the celebration. Cynthia's face lit up with relief and appreciation as she accepted the offer. Gregory felt a glimmer of optimism, believing that this small act of kindness might bring a touch of joy to his somber day and potentially help in Joe's slow path to recovery. Gregory's heart raced with a mix of anticipation and exhaustion as he prepared for his son's birthday party. He had just called his father to request the birthday cake and was now picking up his parents to bring them home for the celebration. The house was almost ready, and the arrival of the guests was imminent. Just as he was about to collect the cake, Gregory was struck by an unexpected sight. At the entrance to his house stood a woman holding a baby who looked strikingly similar to Joe. The recognition did not come immediately, but once it did, it left him utterly bewildered. "Is that you?" Gregory stammered, his voice tinged with disbelief. Cynthia looked up at him, her eyes brimming with tears, and nodded. "Yes, it's me. Joe is also my son." The revelation was like a thunderclap, shaking Gregory to his core. Cynthia's voice trembled as she recounted her heart-wrenching story. "You see, after the accident, the birth documents were manipulated to show that Kathy had given birth to Joe that night. Officially, I was considered a stranger to Kelly. I had to pretend to be someone else in my letters to my mother. I was devastated, feeling as though a piece of my soul had been ripped away, but I forced myself to stay strong and appear cheerful. My priority was to save my mother's life, no matter the cost." Her voice faltered as she continued. "There was enough money for her treatment, and she was admitted to the hospital. We fought for her recovery for a whole year. The doctors performed surgery, and there were brief moments of hope. But her body could not endure another round of chemotherapy, and she passed away in my arms." Cynthia's eyes were filled with anguish as she recalled her mother's final words. "Before she died, I confessed to her how I had managed to obtain such a large sum of money. I couldn't keep the secret any longer. My mother wept for a long time, telling me, 'You shouldn't have done that, daughter. A child belongs with their mother. You ruined your life for me.' And in the end, it was all in vain." The pain of her mother's last words was a constant ache in Cynthia's heart. "I was overwhelmed by grief and loneliness. Every morning I dragged myself to work as a cleaner in the farm cafeteria, and every evening I cried myself to sleep. My days were consumed by sorrow, haunted by dreams of childbirth and the daughter I missed so dearly. I wondered endlessly about her well-being, how she had changed, and what kind of life she was living with her new family." Gregory stood in stunned silence, absorbing Cynthia's painful confession. The storm of emotions swirling inside him was a testament to the complexities of their intertwined fates. A week ago, the weight of grief and desperation became too much for Cynthia to bear. Consumed by an overwhelming need to see her daughter, she made a heart-wrenching decision. Driven by the hope of a single, precious moment with Kelly, she ventured to the home of the wealthy couple who had adopted her child. She planned to kneel before them and plead for even the briefest of meetings with her beloved daughter. Cynthia waited at the apartment door, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and dread. When no one answered, she discovered the door was unlocked. Driven by an unsettling premonition, she quietly entered the apartment. What she saw inside was a scene of unspeakable horror. The couple lay lifeless in their bed, their skin a sickly shade of blue. The sight of them, gone from this world, sent a jolt of terror through her. Her gaze then fell upon Kelly, who was huddled in a closet, sobbing inconsolably. The shock of the discovery left Cynthia paralyzed momentarily, but the urgent need to protect her daughter snapped her into action. Without time to properly dress the frightened child, she quickly wrapped Kelly in a warm blanket and fled the apartment. The urgency of the moment overshadowed every other thought as she raced to the station, hailed a taxi, and brought Kelly to her own home. Upon arriving, Cynthia hastily found her old childhood belongings and changed Kelly into dry clothes. As they settled into their new, unexpected reality, Cynthia was astonished to find that Kelly, whether from shock or an innate sense of safety, seemed to accept her presence without protest. The child, still blissfully unaware of the full extent of the tragedy, frequently asked when her parents would return. In a desperate attempt to protect the fragile reality she had created, Cynthia told Kelly that she was her mother's friend and went by the name Aunt Cynthia. She knew that what she had done was fraught with legal and moral complications. The decision to take Kelly, rather than call the authorities, was one born out of fear and maternal instinct. The police might have suspected her of murder, and Kelly could have been placed in an orphanage, a fate Cynthia could not bear to imagine. Her heart heavy with the weight of her choices, Cynthia was resolute she would not surrender Kelly to anyone, no matter the cost. The bond between mother and child, forged over 9 months, was sacred to her, especially knowing that Kelly's biological mother had been unable to conceive. Gregory, grappling with the gravity of Cynthia's situation, could only react with dismay. His head was in his hands as he tried to process the shocking revelation. Cynthia, you find yourself in an incredibly complex and dangerous predicament. While your actions come from a place of deep pain and love, you're now entangled in a legal quagmire. The police are likely to scrutinize your involvement closely. Given that you were the last person seen with the deceased couple, your fingerprints would have been found at the scene, and Kelly's documents list her as their child. This situation looks like a kidnapping, and proving otherwise could be incredibly challenging. Moreover, the authorities might suspect you of having a motive for their deaths. It's an incredibly tangled web, and you need to consider your next steps very carefully. The scene erupted into chaos. As Gregory and Cynthia faced the bandits, the sudden crash of the window and the shattering of glass sent a wave of panic through the room. The intruders, 2 masked men with menacing intentions, stormed in with a clear goal to capture Kelly. Cynthia, still in shock, instinctively clung to Kelly, her voice trembling as she shouted, "Did you bring the police to me? I won't give up Kelly, darling. Come to me." The young girl, terrified, clung to her tightly. One of the bandits, commanding the others, ordered, "There she is, the little one. Quickly, bring her to us. We need her alive, and the woman can be punished to learn not to mess with us." They lunged towards Cynthia, trying to pry the child away. Gregory, however, refused to stand by. Driven by a mix of desperation and bravery, he leaped into action, using his karate and wrestling skills from his youth to protect Cynthia and Kelly. The struggle was fierce. Gregory fought valiantly, but the bandits were ruthless. Amid the fight, one of them brandished a knife, slashing wildly. Gregory took a deep cut, his strength faltering as he bled. Amid the chaos, Cynthia managed to grab Kelly and make a desperate dash to the yard. There, she untied her loyal dog, Cooper, and shouted, "Cooper, save your mistress." The dog, sensing the danger, charged into the house with a ferocious bark, attacking the intruders with unbridled fury. The commotion attracted the attention of neighbors, who quickly rallied to help. As the skirmish continued, 3 strong men from the community joined in, their efforts adding to the fray. The loud noises and cries for help eventually brought the police to the scene. When the authorities arrived, they took control of the situation. The bandits were apprehended, and all involved were taken to the police station. Gregory was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, while Cynthia was taken into custody. Kelly, traumatized and in tears, was placed in a children's shelter pending further investigation. In the shelter, Kelly clung to Cynthia, sobbing uncontrollably. "Aunt Cynthia, don't give me away. I'm scared," she pleaded. Cynthia, tears streaming down her face, whispered back through her sobs, "Kelly, know that Mommy loves you very much and will never forget you. You're the most beloved and dear girl." Gregory, despite his critical condition, managed to call his nanny, Melissa, from the hospital. His voice was weak but urgent. "Melissa, I'm in trouble. I'm injured. They're taking me to the hospital. Please stay with Joe all the time. I have no one else to rely on." Melissa, panic-stricken, rushed to gather her belongings and the necessary documents for the hospital. She was overwhelmed with emotion but focused on her duty. Meanwhile, Joe, sensing something was wrong with his father's prolonged absence, became increasingly anxious. The day was filled with uncertainty and fear as the repercussions of the night's events unfolded, leaving everyone involved facing a future full of unanswered questions and heartache. Melissa held Joe close, her heart heavy with worry. She gently explained, "Joe, your dad is in the hospital because he got sick, but he'll be okay. We're going to see him now. We have to stay calm and not forget anything. If you want, we can visit Grandma's after we see Dad." Joe, still anxious, protested, "No, I want to see Dad first." "Is he going to die like Mom did? I'm so scared." Melissa, her anxiety barely concealed, reassured him, "Joe, don't think that way. Your dad is going to get better. The doctors are taking good care of him. We need to stay strong for him." Throughout the taxi ride, Joe nervously twisted the button on his jacket, his fear palpable. The thought of losing his remaining parent was too much to bear. When they arrived at the hospital, Joe clung tightly to Melissa's hand, his small frame trembling with fear. They waited in the hospital corridor, Joe's mind racing with worry. Finally, the doctor emerged and spoke with a reassuring tone. "Everything is fine. We stitched up the wound. There's no life-threatening danger. He'll recover soon. No need to cry." "Can I see him?" Joe asked through his tears, his voice barely a whisper. The doctor, moved by the child's distress, agreed, just for a short while. Melissa wheeled Joe into the ward. Gregory lay on the bed, looking pale but conscious. His arm and shoulder were bandaged, a stark reminder of the night's events. Seeing his father, Joe's fear turned into relief. He jumped from the wheelchair, his legs shaky but determined. He staggered over to Gregory, his emotions overwhelming him. "Dad, I was so scared," Joe sobbed, hugging his father tightly. "Don't leave me again. Please don't go away for so long." Gregory, despite his pain, managed to smile. "Joe, you're walking again. I'm so proud of you. This makes me feel better already. We've finally done it." Joe, overcome with joy, realized he could walk unaided. He tentatively stepped away from the bed, testing his legs. At first he walked slowly, then with growing confidence he moved faster. "Dad, I can walk by myself just like before. I can run and play with the other kids." The sight of Joe walking again, a sign of hope and recovery, filled Gregory's heart with happiness. He watched with tears in his eyes as his son, once again able to move freely, celebrated his newfound mobility. Melissa, seeing the joy and relief in both father and son, knew this moment was a turning point. Despite the challenges they had faced, the bond between Gregory and Joe was stronger than ever, and the promise of healing and recovery shone brightly amidst the adversity. The resolution of this story brought a sense of relief and joy to all involved. As the days passed, Gregory's recovery progressed, and he began to regain his strength. The trauma of the attack slowly faded, replaced by the warm comfort of family and love. Cynthia, after being released on bail, faced a challenging period of uncertainty, but she held on to hope. The investigation eventually cleared her name, and the real culprits behind the businessman's murder were apprehended. The truth emerged, affirming Cynthia's innocence and revealing her courageous and desperate act to protect her daughter. The day Cynthia was reunited with Kelly was filled with emotional relief. The little girl, once so distressed and confused, finally found solace in her mother's embrace. The reunion was a heartfelt moment, marked by tears of joy and relief from both mother and daughter. Cynthia promised to cherish every moment with her daughter, vowing to create a loving and secure environment for her. As the family adjusted to their new reality, they found solace in the support and love surrounding them. Gregory and Cynthia, united by their shared experiences and challenges, grew closer, forging a bond strengthened by their trials. Their family life, though marked by past hardships, blossomed with renewed hope and happiness. Together they embraced the future, finding comfort in the simple joys of life and the strength of their connections. The story of their trials and triumphs became a testament to resilience and the power of love in overcoming adversity. Thank you for joining us on this journey through an incredibly moving and inspiring story. We've witnessed the strength of love and the power of perseverance in the face of tremendous adversity. From Gregory's brave fight for his son's well-being to Cynthia's courageous efforts to protect her daughter, this story is a powerful reminder of the impact of compassion and resilience. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What has this story taught you about handling challenges and the importance of love and determination? Please share one thing you've learned and how you plan to bring it into your own life in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and found it meaningful, please leave your comment, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Your support helps us continue to bring you valuable stories and insights. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to your thoughts and feedback.